Well, hello folks, and welcome to this another tutorial on one of TooTallToby's practice models. This one was used in one of his tournaments, and it seems like when I watched Toby's explanation on how he went through and created these parts, he used a lot of SolidWorks options called Pierce to align the wires from the bottom to the center line of the wire on the top. So we don't have a Pierce command in Alibre. What we do have is a project to sketch option that I'll be showing how we can utilize that in creating all this geometry for these wires. All these dimensions are drawn from the outside max dimensions. Radii are shown here, bend on the inside radius, 10 millimeters on the outside radius, an overall dimension of 80 on the outside, max length is 175 on the outside width. And since we're dealing with sweeps, we need to dimension the path dimensions. So we need to subtract an allowance for the wire diameters. In the case of the width and height, we're going to be subtracting 4 millimeters to get our dimensions from the mid or center line or the path center line on each side, 2 millimeters each side. So we're going to be at 171 on our width, and on our height, 80 minus our 4, we're going to be at 76. Our max height at 22 will be subtracting another total of 4 millimeters to get to the center line. And our radii here of 6 will be adding 2 millimeters to get to the center line, so radius of 8. Also noting our gap distances, our first gap between the wires is 9, and since our planes and sketches and everything are on the mid lines, so we're going to be adding 4 millimeters to that gap, and for each subsequent gap we'll be adding 4. So as noted here, we have a 12 millimeter typical from center line, from center to center on our wires. So with that, let me get started. I'll do the first profile is going to be the path and sweep for the top wire, and then we'll get into creating the planes and geometry for the wires on the bottom. So let me get this off to the side here. And we're going to start our first sketch on the ZX plane. So let me start a sketch, do a horizontal line, and then we'll get a tangent line, tangent arc off the end of this, and that is going to be a radius of 8. And then off of this, we'll draw another tangent arc all the way to the other end, and finish off with one more tangent arc. And to this end, we'll make this tangent to the horizontal line, and we'll make this arc equal to the 8 millimeter arc on the other side. Next, we're going to put a midline or midpoint constraint on this line to the origin. And now we can put some dimensions on. So from this arc to this arc, we'll use the outside slot option. And like I said, that's going to be 175 minus the 4 for the wire diameter. And then the last one is going to be an inside dimension. And that's going to be 80 minus 4. And that gives us our profile path. So let me just rename this as our top wire path. Okay, now we can put in our wire profile and put this right on the origin at 4 millimeters. And then we'll sweep our sketch 2 along our top wire path, and then we're done with the top. So now the next one is we're going to create this first wire here as an offset of 9mm gap plus 4 so that we can get our wire in the right location with the right offset. So we're going to offset this plane, insert plane. We're going to be 9 plus 4 and activate reverse to get it in the right position. Apply that and close it. And then we'll insert an axis between this offset plane and the ZX plane. And we'll see that that's required here in a second. So now our next step is going to be to draw the profile for our lower wire. So we'll start a circle on this sketch, 4mm. And now we can put this arc on here, or the circle on here. We can line it up, but we have to line it up with the path of our top wire. So if we come up here, we grab select, project to sketch, and grab our top wire path. We'll create a reference figure and maintain association on that. So now we have our profile path, and now we can constrain this to that path, but the reason for the arc or the axis now is so that we can get it located directly on this intersection between the axis and the path, so that we have a perfect alignment between the two wires. Okay, now we have that done. On our offset plane, we'll start a new sketch. And here's where we've got two ways we can do this. One is to draw a rectangle here, full way across, and we'll delete this top line since we don't need it. But what that did is give us two end lines that are the same length. And now what we need to do is locate this node on that center of that arc that we just drew. So we're going to come up here, we'll grab project to sketch again, and we'll project sketch 3, which is our circle. We're going to create reference figure and maintain association and OK that. And then we have all kinds of garbage in here that we need to come in here and clean up so that we only have this little segment here that shows that center line of that arc. Well, you undo all that. Really, project to sketch gives us the tools to create that already. So if we create a reference figure, maintain association, and now do not project reference figures. Make sure you select that. And what that does is it's going to project in that circle and leave the reference figures behind. So all you get is the reference for the arc. And now we can do a midpoint or midline constraint between the line node and that projected line, and that positions our path properly on that line to that top wire. So drag this down. So now our next step is to add our fillets here at 8mm, because remember we had a 6mm inside plus the 4mm. So now we can do that on both sides. And now we have to align our second end over here with this side, on the right hand side. So what we're going to do is borrow a trick from Ex Machina and use a midpoint constraint between the two endpoints and the origin, and that positions that end aligned properly. And we need a dimension now of 22 minus 4. And one more thing we need to do is make a horizontal between this point or node and that node. Okay, now everything is squared away. And now deactivate that. We'll come up here and we'll sweep sketch 3 into sketch 4. And there's our first wire complete side to side, and they're properly aligned on both ends. Now, one way, that's one way you can do it to create the wires. Got a full wire on the model. A second way to do it, let me offset the plane here for our next wire. And our wire is going to be 12 millimeters. Get it going in the right direction. And again, we'll need an axis so that we can define our intersection. And then to keep things a little bit cleaned up, we'll deactivate our previous plane and axis. So all we're dealing with is a current plane and axis for the next wire. Now, the second step, what I'll show is start a sketch. We're going to draw our circle, 4 millimeters. We're going to project our top wire path as a reference figure and maintain association. And again, we'll put an intersection between the path and the axis and select our arc or circle, and it positions it properly. And then we'll get out of that sketch. And then on the offset sketch, this time, rather than a rectangle, we'll just draw two lines. We need a vertical line and a horizontal line to approximate the midpoint position. Again, we're going to project sketch, and here we're going to project sketch 5, which is a circle, as a reference. We're going to maintain association and leave the reference figures behind so that all we get is the circle. Another midline constraint between that line end node and the projected line. Put in one fillet of 8 millimeters. We'll do a vertical constraint between the line node and the origin, and then our dimension offset here of 22 minus 4, and get out of that sketch, and we'll sweep sketch 5 along sketch 6 to the halfway point. Now I'm sure you picked up on what I'm going to do here, is because I'm going to complete the rest of these wires, half wires, and then we'll mirror the end results. So the next step again is basically it's a rinse and repeat. Offset our plane at 12, hit the space bar to toggle our reverse button on, apply and close that button, insert an axis between the offset plane and the ZX plane, turn off or deactivate, turn off visibility of our previous planes and axis, and then another circle, 4 millimeters, project to sketch the top wire path as reference and maintain the association. Another intersection between the path, the axis, and the circle. And we're done with that one. And then 2 more lines on the offset plane. Sketch line. And we'll project sketch 7 again as reference, maintain the association and leave the reference stuff behind. Another midline constraint, another fillet, another vertical constraint between the line end node and the origin, and then dimension this offset here at 22 minus 4. And then one more sweep, sketch 7 along sketch 8. And again, we'll go insert another plane at 12. Insert another axis. Turn off the previous. Okay. Get another circle at 4 millimeters. Project our top wire path as reference. And then another intersection between the path and the axis. Okay. And now we're down to the last wire. So we'll insert one more plane. Add 12. And another axis. Close that. Turn off the previous plane and axis. Activate a 2D sketch. We'll get our circle in here at 4. Project the top wire path as reference. And then put our intersection constraint on here. And then our final path on the offset plane. And again, 2 more lines. And we'll project sketch 13 as reference, maintain the association, and leave the reference lines behind with our midline constraint. Vertical constraint, and a fillet, dimension, and another sweep, sketch 13 along 14. Okay, and the last step here is we're going to mirror this feature, this one, and this one, and this is our mirror plane. Okay, and then we're going to add material as plain carbon steel, and let's see, what do we end up with here? And we have 129, which is the stated correct answer for the part. So there you go. Let me turn off these last planes. That completes the wire soap holder. So hopefully those little steps that I showed you help you out and come in handy when you're modeling other wire features or what parts that have wires on them that need to be aligned properly. So anyway, we'll see you in the next video.